Welcome to our Fall 2 Sports Night. Obviously, a unique time where the Fall 2 season has never been a part of the high school calendar before. So we're excited to start a new season, a different season that should be unique. And my goal tonight is just to spread some information on the sports that are approved, some of the protocols, updates, and policies from Pembroke High School. So I'm going to share my screen with this slide. Alrighty, so tonight's agenda. We'll start with some Patriot League updates, some updates on EEA guidance, which was amended on Monday with some small changes, the registration process, the practice game schedules, and we'll finish with some of the rules, policies from Pembroke and the MIAA. First things first, our mission statement. Pembroke High School for athletics, our mission is to educate and empower through athletics. And the platform that school provides us, that academics provide us, will always be the top priority. So the word student athlete is pretty simply put, where the student will always come before the athlete. And, I truly believe that the academic platform is the most important piece because that's a lifelong decision. So the work that is committed to athletics should be the same as what's committed to academics. The second part is to empower essential life skills. And these four skills you can see here, in my mind, start with sportsmanship. And that's really respecting the game. Playing the game with respect should be the only way that we play at Pembroke, and understanding that athletics is a privilege. Second part of this is commitment. And that's when you commit to play a sport, you're committing to a team. You're committing to something bigger than yourself. And it's not about you. There has to be a selfless mentality that is a part of you being a part of a team. Next is accountability. And really, here is accountability for your actions and decisions. Once you wear that Pembroke logo, there's much more and many more eyes on you. So you have to be accountable for your actions. Make sure that what you want to accomplish is what you say you're going to accomplish. So accountability, you can't waver from that, whether that's showing up on time or that's being at school on time. We cannot waver from that. And lastly, really ties all these skills together, and that's integrity. That's being who you say you are. That's respecting the game. That's being committed to your team. That's being accountable for your decisions and actions. And to sum it all up is integrity. So really to finish the slide, the mission statement is to educate and empower through athletics. Moving forward, some of the updates from the Patriot League in the Fall 2. The Fall 2 season will start on Monday, February 22nd, and will commence on April 25th, which gives us about a 10-week rough season. Football, cheerleading, and indoor track have all been approved, and we're going to continue this bubble format, which is similar to our fall and winter seasons, where all our scrimmages, all the games that we play will take place with Patriot League opponents only. So no out-of-league games will be permitted. And we feel like this allows us to control the modifications, the logistics of the game day operation. We know what the Patriot League is doing from all our opponents. So we feel it's in the best interest of our student athletes to stay healthy and to make sure everyone's following the protocols by staying within the bubble. And then lastly, because there is no MIAA tournament, the season will be completed what we're calling a Patriot Cup. It's gone very well for our first two seasons, and we're excited to keep this continuing through our Fall 2 season. Moving forward, and I just want to make everyone aware that the sports that are approved fall in a different risk category from the EEA, which is the Energy and Environmental Affairs. The first two sports, football and cheerleading, I'm going to talk about, fall within their high risk category. And really the risk factor is determined by the likelihood of routine or sustained close contacts in proximity and the chance of having physical contact with somebody else. So football, cheerleading fall in this high risk category. It's very likely that if we have a student athlete who tests positive on one of these teams, that the entire team can be quarantined. So even if they're just a close contact, or if they're in a different position group, it's very likely that whole team can be quarantined. So I just want to make it aware that there are some potential consequences in these higher risk sports. The second risk factor falls into our moderate risk, and that's really just our indoor track sport for the Fall 2. And that's not to say that this sport entire team won't go into full quarantine either. There's always a chance that if someone on the team tests positive, the entire team could have consequences for that. So awareness, football, cheerleading falls in the high risk category. Indoor track falls in the moderate risk category by the EEA guidance. This slide right here, and I don't expect you to try to read this all, and that's not the purpose of this slide. The purpose of this slide is really to make you aware that if a student athlete does test positive for COVID, then we do have a return to play process. So I think we've all either been a part of a situation or know a story where someone tests positive with COVID and they're completely fine. They're shocked when they test positive. They couldn't believe they had it, but they did. Conversely, the person who tests positive and they're completely knocked off their feet, whether they're hospitalized or they have some kind of abnormality, they can't get over it. So there's really both ends of the spectrum where some people can test positive and be okay, it seems, and others test positive and they have a completely different impact. We're taking that into consideration and making sure that each student athlete who tests positive has a return to play process. So if you test positive, you're not just going to be able to be cleared to come back and participate in a game on day one that you're cleared. The first part of clearance is a signed doctor's note by your physician. Once you have that signed doctor's note, then we can move forward in the process. And you can see here it's really broken down into 3 categories: asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, moderately symptomatic, or severely symptomatic. So based off which category you fit in, we have a return to play criteria to make sure that when we put you back on that court, that field, on that mat, that you have cleared and passed all the evaluations and tests that we're looking for. And it really goes back to the health and well-being process. This being obviously a new problem, we don't have a ton of information, but this is the information we have. We're going to use it, and we're going to be pretty strict with these guidelines. Moving forward here to our registration process, and if you've done this for a fall or winter sport, it's essentially the same piece. So you can register online at our website at pembrokek12.org, and the deadline to register is Friday, February 12th. So please make sure you get that in. There should be 3 tabs. It's either a cheerleading, a track, or football. Just click the sport that you want to participate in and follow the links from there on out. The next part is a physical. Your physical must be valid from 13 months of the date of that exam. And that's going to work backwards. So at the end of the season, it's April 25, work back 13 months and you will be cleared for the entire season. Please make sure that's done. You can email those to Katie Akins at pembrokek12.org. Next is the athletic user fee. Football will be $275 and track and cheerleading are $225. If you have multiple student athletes within our program, the family cap, if you do not play football and hockey, is $385. If you participate in football and hockey, the family cap is $435. Please have those user fees to us by February 26th. The last part of the registration process is impact testing, and this is required for all freshmen and juniors who participate in football and cheerleading. All freshmen, juniors, football, and cheerleading. You can complete this online at impacttestonline.com. Our password for Pembroke is right there underneath it. It's a free evaluation, but it's great. You can do it virtually right on your computer, and if you can get that done by Friday, February 12th, that would be fantastic. Moving forward to our practice and game schedules, like I mentioned earlier, the Fall 2 season can begin on Monday, February 22nd. And then to move down here, the regular season games and meets. So for indoor track for girls and boys, we're looking at the week of March 8th for the first meet. For football, March 12th, which is a Friday, in cheerleading, which would be the next Friday for the next football home contest. So football will have a 5-game regular season plus a Patriot Cup, which could add an additional 2 games. There'll be a semifinals and a finals game. Cheerleading will have a minimum of 2 home games because we know we have 2 home football games. Indoor track will run 5 meets and then more likely to run a championship-style meet at the end of their season. And please, you can always find our schedules as these are fluid and there's a chance that they could change on our athletics website, and the MIAA website are the best resources to continue to follow if anything does change. All right, moving on forward here to some of our high school athletic policies. The first part of this, and it goes back to slide number 1, our mission statement of the importance of academics. This is school attendance. So any student who is absent from school may not participate in any athletic event on that day unless exception is granted from administration. Students must be present by the start of the second block and must remain in school for the day in order to participate in any event unless exception is granted from administration. The same rules apply in person and at home days. So if you're remote, the daily check-in is still mandatory. So please make sure that you accomplish that. Tying it together with our sport attendance, proper attendance is mandatory for all practice meetings that are scheduled from the first day of tryouts, February 22nd, to the official end of your season. Just like your school attendance, you're expected to be at every sport requirement, whether it's a practice meeting or game. And I have April vacation on here because this fall 2 season does run through April vacation. So if you have something planned for that week, I would highly recommend that you make your sport coach aware of that to plan on anything that could happen. It's not fair to the other student athletes who continue to practice and show up every day and to not be treated differently if they go on vacation. So please let your sport coach know if you have vacation. He can prepare accordingly, is not going to be blindsided by it. Policies: continued transportation. We would always provide transportation to all away contests. And then also the second part is that parents, caregivers have the option of driving their son or daughter to all away contests as well. If you want to drive your son or daughter to the contest, please, we have a waiver that must be signed by you, and then I'll sign that at the end to make sure that we know who's going to be on the bus and who will not be on the bus. Communication, and this communication is strictly between parents and coaches, what I'm talking about here. To be aware, there's two different types of issues that can take place. One's appropriate and one's inappropriate. So if there's concerns about behavior, academic standing, or the mental health and well-being of your son and daughter, that is completely appropriate to communicate with the sport coach about those issues. On the other side, inappropriate issues are about play calling, team strategy, X's and O's, playing time from other students and student athletes in the program. Those are inappropriate conversations to have with the coach. And if there is something that you want to speak to the coach about, please, the first step, talk to that sport coach privately. Don't come up to them at a practice or a game, but email them. Set up a time where you guys can talk about any of the issues or conflicts that are going on. They can try to resolve. If you cannot resolve those issues, the next step is that I become involved, and we can hopefully all come together, find out the issue, and resolve it together. But please understand that there is inappropriate and appropriate issues that should be and shouldn't be talked about with the coach. MIAA rule number 62 is a chemical health rule. And I'm going to read this so it's very clear. From the earliest fall practice date to the conclusion of the academic year or final athletic event, a student shall not, regardless of quantity, use, consume, possess, buy, sell, or give away any beverage containing alcohol, any tobacco product, marijuana, steroids, or any controlled substance. It is not a violation for a student to be in possession of a legally defined drug specifically prescribed for the student's own use by his or her doctor. The first offense, there's a 25% contest suspension. For a second offense, we're looking at a 60% contest suspension. Any student who has a chemical health violation is ineligible to be elected or serve as a captain for 1 full calendar year from the date of violation. So please understand what is acceptable, what is unacceptable, and let's stay away from any violations of the chemical health rule. The second rule is the MIAA Rule 45, which is the bona fide team member rule. And a bona fide member of the school team is a student who is consistently present for and actively participates in all high school team sessions. Bona fide members of a school team are precluded from missing a high school practice or competition in order to participate in a non-school athletic activity event in any sport recognized by the MIAA. Student cannot be given special treatment for non-school athletic programs. Any student that violates the standard is ineligible for the next two contests or 2 weeks immediately upon confirmation of the violation. So once you commit to a team, to a program, that's the team you've committed for at the high school level. You cannot choose going to a club, an AAU team, over choosing your high school team if you want to be a part of that program. Code protocols, everyone's topic that they're sick of talking about and hearing about, but we must cover this just to make sure that we're all on the same page and understand the expectations of Pembroke athletics. Our student athletes have done a great job in following these, and The result has been really, really, really low levels of any kind of negative test, or excuse me, positive test that has happened for our student athletes. So to start here, the big three: social distance, face coverings, and sanitization. There's never too much of this. So please understand that, and continue to not be COVID complacent, and to push the importance of following the big three. If you're not feeling well, stay home. Trying to push through, trying to be tough, and all that is great. But right now, it's not appropriate. If you do not feel well, if you have any symptoms that raise a red flag, please stay home. Locker rooms. Coaches will monitor this. It's going to be a get in, get out type situation. It's really just for a bathroom or quick change, not to hang out and conversate. Also, football equipment must be brought home daily. So traditionally, you'd come in, you'd bring your football equipment, put it in the lockers, keep it in there overnight, come back the next day and get it. This year, no equipment can be left overnight. We can put it there throughout the day, but at the end of the night, it must be brought home. And really, that's to make sure that it's being cleaned, it's being sanitized for the next practice date. And then to touch on a few practice modifications, masks are the only acceptable face coverings in Pembroke. No gaiters are allowed. Essential personnel only at practice: athletes, coaches, and medical staff. There is no shared athletic equipment or sharing of water bottles and towels. So a spectator policy, which is always a topic of conversation, we always follow the EEA guidance on this. So it's not necessarily what we want, or what we can do from a sport level. It's from the EEA level. So for football, track, and cheer, we can have 2 adults and siblings per student athlete. We will give each student athlete a lanyard with a Pembroke P on it that they can give to who they want to come for their adults and siblings. And then that's all who will be allowed for our home venues. Away spectators, my hope, I'm still awaiting a decision from the Patriot League, and I'm optimistic about this, that we will allow away spectators. I'm in favor of allowing away spectators. I think it's really important from a safety and health perspective. There's been some situations in the winter season that away spectators weren't allowed, and there's been some bad injuries. So I'm pushing for the away spectator piece, and once I have a final decision on that, I'll make everyone aware. For those who can't make the games, or they don't fit within the adult sibling qualification, PAC TV, our local cable provider, will be live streaming all our JV and varsity football games this year. All right, I'm not going to touch on these in great depth. I'm going to leave this up to the sport coaches. I just want to make aware a couple changes to each sport. The first major change for football is team rosters. So the team rosters for varsity will be limited to 45 players on the sideline and a max of 6 coaches. So the only players who dress are the ones who are expected to play in that game. Any injured athletes, any younger athletes who are just kind of part of the team but not really a part of the game day roster will not be able to dress this year on game day. And that's really to help limit the amount of people on the sideline. The team box will now extend all the way up the field from the 10 to 10-yard line in social distance manner. The second major change is that masks now must be worn under helmets. And like I said, there's no gaiters in Pembroke, so to have masks available is really important. To, if one breaks, if it gets sweaty, the mouthpiece gets it wet, it's important to have additional masks. We will supply masks, but it's always a good thing to have a few on your own. Cheerleading, the major change here is really just cohort sizes. So the MIAA is asking for cohort sizes of 10, and to keep these stun groups and cohort groups together. That way, if a student athlete does have an issue, we can hopefully just eliminate that one cohort instead of having to eliminate the entire team. Game rosters on cheerleading are also limited this year to a max of 20 at any game and outdoor event. So that's one thing to be aware of. If you're a part of the cheerleading team and we have over 20 student athletes who are part of that, there's a possibility that you may not be able to perform at our home games. There's no cheerleading at away contest this year. It's home games only, limited to a max of 20 cheerleaders. Indoor track, which is kind of misleading. These events in track will happen outdoors this year, and it will be virtual to start. And that's for a few reasons. Number one is to help limit the roster sizes on both. We feel like we're going to have really high numbers in the Patriot League, and to be virtual is probably the safest, easiest way to get this going. And that we hope by the end of the track season, we can start doing dual meets in person again. But right now, they'll be outdoors. They will be virtual. The Reggie Lewis Center is completely shut down to any track right now. I actually think it's a vaccination center, so there is nothing track related going on in there at this moment. The sprint hurdle events, there is some guidance out there that may be changed at this point, but no starting blocks seems very apparent. And the lane situation, we're still waiting the final guidance on this. We think we're going to be able to use every lane, but currently it states that we're supposed to use every other lane. So slight modifications. The indoor track events will be the events we run. Those will just be run outdoors. Communication. For any athletic information, you can check out our website at pembroke12.org/athletics. Our Twitter page is probably the most streamlined, most effective means of communication for us. I try to pump out all our stuff on that in terms of schedule and updates, weather changes, anything that might come up on our handle right there. So please give us a follow if you do not already. You can always email me. My email address is brian.phillips@pembroke12.org, or call the office. Please, any questions? I have an open door policy. If something comes up, let me know, and I'll hope to get you an answer and get it resolved as soon as possible. Lastly, I put this on here for my own recall eligibility. I've had this question quite a few times, so I'm assuming other people have it as well. Because there is 4 seasons of high school sports this year, can a student athlete participate in all 4? The answer is yes, absolutely. Even if they participate in fall, they can participate in the fall 2 season. So please take advantage. This probably will never happen again, and participate in all 4 seasons. And then lastly, we're always looking for volunteers to help us video because of the Spectator limitations. If anyone would like to help us video some of our track meets or football freshman games, that'd be a great help. And I know a ton of people would be appreciative of those volunteers. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone being on the call tonight. If any questions do arise, please reach out. And I'm looking forward to a fall 2 sports season and a lot of success for our student athletes. Thank you.